I don't ever tell anyone to have a year lease.
Right.
Like to me, like that is the terrible decision. Do not do that. The lease is actually not there to protect the landlord. The lease is there to protect the tenant most of the time,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
If you have an addendum there that has more stuff in it, fantastic. You're great. Like that's what you should be doing. But your year lease, the only time I would actually concede and say it's still necessary is if the rent is high.
Right.
If it's like 3,500 and it's going to cost you 6 grand in losses if you don't have it rented and it's a luxury sort of apartment, or these days that's kind of anything, but 3,000 or something like dollars, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Now if you're dealing with a regular apartment at 15 to 2,000, um, when you have a locked term, the only thing that you have is the commitment from the tenant, but 60 days notice what the tenant's required to give you. Even if they don't give you 60 days notice, if they just leave
Right.
automatically quickly, you have unit turnover for a higher rental amount,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't, like, I don't, like, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And landlords are notorious for not doing their yearly increases,
Right. Yep.
right? So it's like if you don't have your eye on the ball, do not be signing leases at 1 year, for 1 year,
Yeah.
and just always keep yours at month to month. That's what I would suggest. And then
Mm,
I can still serve an N12, I can still serve an N13, I can still serve all these other applications. But if you're locked this tenant into a lease,
yeah.
I can't do anything for you really.
Well, and back to the N8 that you mentioned, right? Like if you have chronic late payments, you can get the eviction order, but if you got a term on there, it's not till the end of the term, as I understand it.
In certain cases, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I think that's one of those ones that for landlords, it's like, it might sound good as on the surface, driving by 60 miles an hour sounds great. But wait a second, it's actually kind of tilting things out of favor. To your point, when there's turnover in a market like we live in the GTA, it's hard to keep up with the rent increases, even if they do stay on those yearly allowances. It's hard to keep up with what the market's doing. And so, yeah, why would you want to lock into that for over a year until, like you said, unless you have very, very premium rents and you'd love to secure that? Well, maybe it makes sense. Otherwise, and that's the other thing, and I see a lot of realtors do this, is there's a common misperception, especially among realtors selling investment properties, is, don't worry, this thing goes month to month on April 1st or whatever. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean what I think they think it means, right?
Yeah. 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 Like I work very closely with realtors. Like about 90% of my practice is dealing with their clients, that type of thing. And a lot of the investors, usually when we're dealing with a project, there's a realtor there that's either being involved in the strategy, or is the investor themselves, or selling it,
Mm,
etc. And yeah, there is a big hole there when it comes to knowing about the LTP matters when it comes to investments. And most practitioners just have to sort of educate and continue to educate whenever they deal with it.
yeah.
But when you're selling a property with a tenant in it, it's kind of like having a third buyer.
Mm,
Like there's always something.